Hi, I'm Tiffany, and this is part 2 of a series on empathetic listening. Not quite as excited as I was in the first one, but definitely wanted to continue to communicate with you on some things that I have learned and that are important to me. So getting right into it, what listening is not. Listening is not lecturing at someone after they've spoken to you. Listening is not judging them and their feelings, emotions, etc. That you're hearing come out of them, because you could be wrong. And we'll talk about how you can take steps to avoid being wrong when you come to the conclusion of the conversation. Listening is not interrupting. Listening is not agitatedly asking multitude of questions, getting in someone's face, especially if that person that you're speaking to is a young person, or they are agitated or irritable or excitable. The last thing that you want to do when someone is excitable and upset is start asking them lots and lots of questions. The only aside I have to that is if you know them really well and you know that based on previous communication they want you to ask a lot of questions because that somehow enables them to communicate more clearly with you. But generally you don't want to do that. That will increase agitation and what we call escalation in behavioral health. So those are some of the things that listening is not. So going right into listening, what it is, I think I'm going to talk about 4 major things that you can do to better listen. And the first of which I've mentioned before, and that is not interrupting. Part of not interrupting also includes when you kind of know when people come to that kind of pause and they're kind of talking and there's kind of a pause, almost like they're waiting for you to say something. I encourage you to wait. Don't just say something. Don't, even if you've waited to maybe ask a question or get a piece of information. And then the more you do this, the more you'll become better at realizing when people just need to keep talking. But there are a lot of times where I find that is a perfect pause to ask a leading question, an open-ended question, blah, blah, blah. But if I just keep my mouth shut a few more seconds, I find that a lot of times people aren't done talking. They still have more to say. And I just need to keep my mouth shut. And in those particular situations, those type of quote-unquote conversations, which really is me really just keeping my mouth shut and someone else doing the talking, you'll find that at the end of the conversation, they've come to their own conclusion, and they just say, you know what, thank you. I just needed to get that out. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I just needed to kind of talk it out. Okay? And you'll find that some of those conversations will be that. Second, instead of, bombarding with questions, you will ask open-ended questions and kind of just spread them out like salt, like spice in a good, like in a good meal. You just put some sea salt and it flavors the whole thing. So you do find the pauses, or you do feel it's an appropriate time to quote-unquote interrupt. Or you find that they're having difficulty expressing something to you, or they kind of trail off in their brain and they're just going from thing to thing to thing. So your response or your interjection is something like, oh, so what happened next? Oh, okay, can you tell me more about that? All right, so Johnny said this, and what was your response? How did that make you feel? Those are open-ended questions, not yes or no answers. They're an invitation. They're called inviting someone to continue to express to you what is obviously on their mind that they would like to communicate, or that they would like to communicate to you. And part of asking open-ended questions goes into the third thing, and that is reflection, or reflexive or reflective type questions. Oh, so Jane, it sounds like what I'm hearing you say is that such and such and such. Those are called, actually, I need to correct myself. Those are called clarification questions, where you are clarifying somebody's speech. Oh, so your boss said this, 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 and this, Tiffany? No, that's not what they said. They said this, 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 and this. Oh, okay. Okay, so they said this. And then what happened? Okay, so you're asking clarifying questions to ensure that you have understood correctly what is being communicated to you. Because oftentimes, we don't. We really don't. We think we get it, but we really don't. So that's why we ask open-ended questions to get people to continue talking. We don't interrupt them. And then we ask clarifying questions, which to me is the most important. And then after that are kind of what I would call the reflective or the reflexive type of things. That's where you're giving them feedback. And this is very good with young people who may not quite be sure what they're feeling. They've not been taught what to feel, if it's okay to feel certain things. In abusive situations, in abusive backgrounds, they could be disassociative and they have no idea what is going on inside. They just know it's this huge mess of something. And your job by listening is empowering them. Your job as the listener then is giving them you are helping them to identify their own emotions. You're not telling them, oh, you're angry, you need to get over that. You just sound so, no. You know, Lisa, when I'm talking to you or when I'm listening to you talk, you know, I'm sensing a lot of frustration. You know, Joe, when I hear you talk about your soccer coach, and it sounds like, you know, it really does sound like he did mistreat you. I have to agree, and that must be really, really frustrating. I'm hearing a lot of anger. Are you feeling angry? Is that the right word, or is it something else? Am I wrong about that? Okay, those are reflective type questions, and they're usually about feelings. Or they are similar to clarification. What I'm hearing you say, what I'm getting from you is this: am I correct? And I find that this question is one of the most important questions in communication.